Hello everyone, and welcome to the first chapter of A Dagger Through the Heart, The Nightmare of What Once Was. As usual, I have a few notes to say in the beginning, and I would just like to say thank you so much to all of my voice actors who, despite some of them being nervous, they still had the confidence to come up here and show everyone what they've got. I will, of course, have everyone's linked in the, not linked, have it in the description for everyone to see. I will probably have it around the divider that I have at the bottom with all of the tags. So if you are very curious to see who will be in the chapter, feel free to check them out. I would love that. And I know all of them would too. If everything goes right, I should have 2 drawings for this chapter. One of them is going to be by my fiance, and then the other one is going to be by my friend of like 8 or so years, who is probably one of the first people to actually hear about this project in its entirety, and I'm just really excited. Alright, let's get into the first chapter. Here is the nightmare of what. Here is the first chapter, the nightmare of what once was. Not long after her parents' assassination, she found her new identity, one she felt truly at home with, no longer just her mother and father's princess, now a king, with a brand new name and temporary attire that suited him. Themos was his new identity, something that no longer felt like a costume. He'd only been forced to parade in to hide from his parents' hatred. He sat upon his starry golden throne that once been his mother's. His father's vacant beside him. Icy blue eyes staring down upon the large crowd of people his mother had hated, now harboring a new feeling in his heart. Solace. His parents' bodies had only been burned a week before, on the night of the new moon, per his request. However, they had expected him to take the throne in their place, so he was forced to pretend that he felt mournful of their passing. He felt almost happy about their death. It felt as if a crushing weight had been lifted from his chest, as if he could finally breathe again. I know you have not seen much of me. That much is customary for elven tradition. But what you need to know is that things will change after today. You need no longer to cower in fear when you spot me in the streets. The pale elf made his way down the stairs, golden heels clanking against the metal steps. The crowd stared in surprise. Never had an elven ruler dared to be close to the humans without flinching, nor one who spoke out of the elves' chosen dialect. You need not think of me as a foe. I hold only your best interests at heart. He did not stutter despite his accent. He'd been practicing the speech for years. He wanted a change for the humans, and he knew very well that they needed one. Many kings and queens must have given the speech before, but know this. I mean it. He felt as if his throat was tightening, restricting his ability to hold his voice steady. The people shrank away as he approached the bottom of the steps, so he stood still, skimming over their tired eyes and fearful expressions, his face contorting with pity that seeped into his nearly always stone face. A small, chubby, freckled maid followed close behind him, with a golden crown that rested upon a black silk pillow. Her gentle expression one of worry. His voice was powerful for someone who was freshly 17, but no one could tell that this unwavering confidence now was just an act. The elf could feel his heart racing with each step. With each breath, he was hoping he wouldn't say the wrong line of his pre-planned speech. If you want something changed, I will listen to your letters and your curses at my door. Themos smiled, a practiced smile that may have been off-putting to some, or most. All that he could hope is that the crowd was oblivious to his shattering mask. The elves weren't known to be trustworthy, not since his grandparents had ruled over the lands for centuries. After they ruled over the Hioni Basileia, the elves' good name had been tarnished. He was never told why, but it had never sat right with him. The crowd was silent, so silent that the only thing that could be heard was the gentle pitter of foxes who roamed the kingdom. No one seemed to breathe. The minutes ticked on, and Thumos held his breath. He pushed his hands up against his chest and made a star. I need this to work. The crowd below finally erupted into cheers, and those once quiet streets erupted with such a raw sense of joy. His heart fluttered, a warm feeling overtaking his once bitter heart.
To our new king!
The maid behind him cheered along with the crowd. A sheepish smile melted away Tahliah's deeply worried expression. The ginger delicately placed the heavy crown upon the small teen's head. Her soothing voice hushed so only Thumos could hear her.
I knew they would love you.
Thumos felt his face heat up, a blue flush decorating his cheeks, his hands coming up from where they gripped his tailcoat to hide his face. Tahliah, the young king pouted into his hands. He couldn't wrap his mind around the fact that the crowd actually cheered. Maybe it was because they knew no better, or maybe it was because they really did see a change. He didn't know, but he would prove that speech true one day, even if it took years. As the cheers were dying down, Zane approached, a line of knights following behind him. The crowd obediently divided into two halves. It was time for him to appoint his own knights, ones to replace those his parents assigned to watch after them, and not those who deserved the protection. A dark-skinned girl with pink hair caught his eye even before Zane could announce their presence. So, without missing a beat, he raised his hand and pointed to the woman. Her. The woman's expression prior had been gloomy, maybe discouraged. But as he opened his mouth, her bubblegum eyes lit up with excitement. She took a few steps forward, kneeling in front of the king as he skimmed his eyes through the rest of the crowd, brows furrowing. Few others in the crowd stood out, but he knew that Zane had only brought their best. He lifted his hand yet again and pointed to a youthful man with bright yellow eyes. And him. He spoke hesitantly this time, yellow teeth digging into his blue-tinted lips, just as the girl had. The brunette quietly marched forward, kneeling in front of the king. You two shall be accompanying Zane and I, while the rest of you shall guard the kingdom. He bowed his head to signal that the knights could stand. The raven-haired knight approached the king, kneeling just as the others had, a golden sword raised high above his head. Thumos gingerly grabbed the hilt of the cold sword, tapping the sword against both of the pink-haired knight's armored shoulders. There was a strange lump in his throat as they recited the pledge. He didn't feel worthy of this respect.
I, Calista, pledge hence, my blade shall rise solely to shield our king and our folk. I remain true, and ne'er utter falsehood, though death it may bring. I await thy command, thy majesty.
Calista stood up and bowed at the waist before joining the crowd with a now genuine smile on her face. Next was the golden-eyed boy, the sword gently clanking against his metal shoulders as he recited the same oath.
I, Nico, pledge hence. My blade shall rise solely to shield our king and our folk.
As he finished the pledge, he made his way back to the crowd as well. The sword was once again placed into Zane's large hands. Silence blanketed the streets, the king's gaze lifting to the crowd and the knights, who all stood obediently waiting his dismissal. He opened his mouth to speak, but nothing came out. Only a choked sob was able to escape him, his heart sinking to his stomach as the world blurred before his own eye. The small boy ripped off his fresh eye patch as he rushed up the stairs, slipping on his own feet whilst he did his best to make it inside of the castle before he broke down entirely. Fuck. The wound was still so fresh, the searing pain haunting as his eyes welled up with tears. His chest heaved as he gripped at the railing, his other hand reaching to cover the blood dripping down his cheek. All of this work to fit in, and yet he still managed to fail. To fuck up. Everything was going fine right up until he broke down in front of everyone. Footsteps crept up behind him, not fast nor rushed, just a calming presence that approached him from behind, and yet he still flinched, falling onto his own butt in surprise. "Tahliah?" he stuttered out. Someone had actually followed behind him to check on him. Her expression was gentle, holding out one of her hands to help him stand.
I know this was hard for you, and I need you to know you did amazing.
Her tone was soft and nearing motherly. Her hand reached up to pet his frosty hair as usual. He was used to her touchiness and kind words, though he never could return them. But he leaned his weight into hers, the blood inches from staining her apron, and she made no effort to adjust. She simply wrapped her arms around him and smiled.
They cheered for you, Thamos.
Was the first chapter of A Dagger Through the Heart, The Nightmare of What Once Was. A bit of a mouthful of a title, but nonetheless, I hope everyone enjoyed. It's not the happiest chapter, but given the name, I think it's kind of obvious that it wouldn't be. Don't worry, you'll get some nice, sweet softness in the next chapter, kind of. So, I hope everyone enjoyed that. I am trying so hard to stick to my schedule, but most of the artists that are working on it are all my friends, so I have no intention of rushing them, because they deserve to not be rushed. Art takes time. I'm probably going to redo the art for this chapter on Patreon soon, because I don't quite like how it turned out. At all. I feel like it was just really, it looked rushed, even though it took me like 5+ hours, but it's okay. Again, everyone's ats will be linked in the description, and my lovely beta reader, I don't know if they want to be credited, but if they do, they will be in the description too. They are very sweet, much better at punctuation than I am, so I guess that is what beta readers are for. Yeah, this was a bit of a whirlwind to finish. It was completely different from the original idea for the first chapter. Actually, the original first chapter idea was the next chapter, which you guys will see why it was not chosen to be the first chapter. I feel like it definitely pushed too fast into the story than it should have. There is a rough draft, actually, of the first chapter up on my Patreon for Tier 2 and up members. So if you are very curious to see the original drafts of my story at all, there, you can look into it. That would be perfectly fine by me. Don't forget to subscribe to the Patreon if you want, hold on. If you want, either unedited content, discarded content, or the actual book chapters before they're released as an audiobook. They always slightly vary from what I've originally written, because I have a very difficult time reading and, like, saying what I'm reading out loud sometimes. So I always get some of the words mixed up. So if you want to see what I fucked up, you can look there too.